Welcome back to the most innovative shipping container channel on YouTube, and we have this 40-foot here we just cut the sidewall out of, but I thought it'd be a good time to talk about how we cut the containers. This is sort of like the swimming pool containers for me. Every time we're cutting on a container, a customer walks up and says, why don't you use a plasma cutter? Why don't you use a torch? Why don't you use this? Why don't you use that? And you know what? We've tried everything. So I'm going to go over what we use, why we do it, and it's just my opinion. Maybe you guys have better luck with something else, but I'll go through each tool, why we do it the way we do it, and so on. So I want to show you something real quick on the side of the container. Your corrugation is welded to your corner post castings. These castings are thicker than your corrugation. On your vertical edges, the corrugation is welded over the top of this corner casting, and I'll show you the inside seam on that side. But if you cut your sidewalls out where this is, you're only cutting through the corrugation. So that's your cut mark on the inside, and that ends up being right here on the sealant line. So you're cutting on this corner casting line from the inside. So you want to cut your verticals from the inside of the container. Your bottom saves you a ton of time. So your corrugation's obviously welded to your bottom C channel. What you want to do is cut on top of this weld. Rarely do we have a situation where we need to cut all this weld out. Just really, if we're doing a walk door, we've got a threshold that goes over that. If we're doing a garage door, the garage door seals down just behind it. So rarely do we need to get this flat and ground, but if you cut on top of this, you can grind all this smooth and it looks good and paint it and you're good to go. And that saves you a bunch of cutting because you don't want to cut through a 1/4 inch thick weld. On the top, so I like to cut the bottom of the container from the outside because ergonomically your tool, you can get it straight. You've got the floor to contend with on the inside. And these D-rings, these will trip you every day. You'll be tripping on them. So as soon as you get the wall cut out, we usually get these D-rings cut out, you'll bust your ass on these D-rings every day. On your top, you can cut from the inside or outside, doesn't really matter. I usually cut the top from the outside. It just seems like the sparks weren't flying at me as much. But these guys cut it from the inside most of the time. And on the bottom, and you guys have probably seen this trick, we leave like a hinge here and a hinge down there, depending on how big a piece you're cutting out. So we leave 4, 5, 6 hinges. And so we don't cut the outer corrugation on a piece here and there. And so you can push the wall out when you get the top and sides cut, and it doesn't go flying or kicking up on you. And then you just cut these hinges after you get it flopped out. So those hinges are pretty nice for safety. What else was there? Oh, I'll show you the cutting wheel. And so what we end up doing with the cutting wheels is when you have a fresh cutting wheel, you cut your inner corrugation because you need more depth with the cutting wheel. As your cutting wheel gets worn down, then you come by and cut the outer corrugation, and then you use the wheel more efficiently, and I'll show you that. So after you've been cutting for a little bit, you're going to start out with this wheel, and these Benchmark abrasive wheels are my favorite. You get a 100 pack on Amazon for like 50 bucks, so 50 cents a piece, and I'll go through the economics of all these different items you can cut with. So once you get down to about this or this size, this is one of the Benchmark wheels, you can start cutting your outer corrugation and get that wheel run down to an absolute nub. And then you're using the entire wheel before you throw it away. That is one of the handiest little tricks we figured out. Now, I was looking around for the DeWalt cutting wheel, the metal cutting wheel. It's like a 5-inch. I saw it on Amazon. I had one here. Can't seem to find it. They are 48 bucks, 47 bucks. I just checked them. So that goes in the handheld circular saw. And that tool's not bad. You can walk up to the outside of the container and cut your verticals and all that. The problem is those blades are about twice the thickness of these Benchmark blades. These Benchmark are 0.045 inches. So you're cutting twice the metal. That blade is 50 bucks. So there's a couple reasons we don't use them. The metal cutting blade is a close, well, I wouldn't say close second. It's a second place to the skinny cutting wheel. I'll get into what tool we use with this. The metal cutting blade, the 5-inch, that goes in the circular saw, works pretty well. The problem is it throws big pieces of metal out, and they're pretty gnarly, and they bounce off the corrugation and hit you, and it's louder. It's a lot louder than these wheels. I don't think it's as smoky as these wheels. These wheels put off a little bit of smoke. So those 0.045 inch cutting wheels are quieter than the metal cutting blade, the DeWalt. The DeWalt's cutting about twice the metal, so you're basically using probably twice the battery. And when we're cutting a wall out this big, we probably go through 7 or 8 6 to 9 amp hour batteries. And I'll show you the fast charger. Here's a beast. This is a 15 amp hour. I got a couple of these. These things are probably 250, 300 bucks a piece. Problem with these is they're just so big and heavy. So the metal cutting wheel is a second place to these for me. They work to cut a container, but with your handheld saw, it's not ergonomic to get on the top or bottom of the container. It's kind of a weird run. With the 60 volt DeWalt, it's really ergonomic to be right in there on the top and bottom corrugation cutting. So it's not very ergonomic. The other things we've tried is the plasma cutter. The problem with the plasma cutter is you got to drag a cord out, you got to have a air compressor running, you've got consumables on the tips, which that's no big deal, but it doesn't like the paint. And by the time you go buzz all the paint off for the plasma cutter to work well, it's slow. It doesn't leave a nice edge. These cutting wheels leave a really nice smooth edge, and so it minimizes our grinding afterward. So it doesn't really leave a smooth edge. The only advantage to the plasma is that it is quiet, but it's much slower. You got to drag a bunch of cords around. So I've had no luck with the plasma. The torch is just complete overkill. Oxygen acetylene torch. So our preferred method is the cutting wheel with the 60 volt DeWalt. So this 60 volt here is probably 4 years old, and these wheels say 11,000 RPM max on them. I don't know what the RPM is on these 60 volt. I think it's 10,000, maybe 14. They don't love these 7-inch grind, like this is a flap disc, but they don't love the 7-inch wheels, but they take it, and they operate pretty well. You can get by with a 20 volt DeWalt, the cheapie. It's probably half the price of a 60 volt, but they hate the 6-inch wheels. They'll probably last about a year or so. If you're not doing it every day, a 20 volt would be fine. So the 60 volt DeWalt, we've had almost zero issues with these. You just go through quite a few batteries, but we don't like dragging cords around, so you get a fleet of batteries going and you're all set. Here's the other blade I was going to show you. I've had a lot of people suggest all different kinds of stuff. I think this thing is 30 or 40 bucks. Yeah, it cuts right through the container. But, you know, probably just 140-foot wall, and this thing's pretty shot, 30 or 40 bucks. We cut out an entire wall of a 40 foot with probably 10 of these, so that's like $5. So you're not beating these in my opinion. You can leave comments and let me know what you think, but we've tried everything. We even tried a concrete saw, which was just crazy big and gnarly and stupid. For a bunch of DeWalt batteries, get this charger. So we got quite a few batteries stacked up over here. I like the 9 and 6 amp hour batteries just because they're 20 or 60 volt and they're not real heavy on the tool, so it leaves the tool pretty ergonomic for you. But this is a fast charger and it does 4 at a time. So it charges way faster than the factory DeWalt, and like I said, does 4 at a time. So that's it on the cutting of the sidewall. I just wanted to discuss where to cut on the verticals to cut through the thinner metal, the inner and the outer with going through wheels efficiently, and so on. So as always, you know, drop comments, ask questions if you have any, but it's the Benchmark Abrasive 0.045 inch wheels, 6-inch wheels with the 60 volt DeWalt. I'm sure the Milwaukee is great too. It breezes through it. I mean, this is probably 2 guys, 10 wheels, 7 or 8 batteries, and probably an hour or 2 to cut this wall out. But a window, you know, a 48 by 36 window, probably 5 to 10 minute job cutting it with these wheels. So as always, thanks for watching.